So there we have it. That is the Japanese Grand Prix, the Formula One weekend, and it's another one which has gone for a victory for Red Bull. Now, despite the potential chance of a Ferrari resurgence and potential challenging, we found out again this weekend that it was just down to damage, just down to problems with the Red Bull car. Obviously, Max Verstappen DNFing back in Australia. Sergio Perez had some problems with the floor and the side pods, and we saw again today that Red Bull car is just in a league of its own. When Sergio Perez is finishing P2, like miles up the road from the next quickest car, you know that is a dominant Formula One car. But it started off with a big crash on the first lap. Alexander Albon, Ricciardo got off the line quite well, but Tsunoda backed him up. I think it was down to a poor start ahead of him. Then led to sort of a load of cars coming together for like turn 3 and 4, and Ricciardo and Albon didn't make it to turn 3 and 4. Albon tries to go to like the outside, and there's not really any space. I don't really know what Albon was doing. For me, it's on Albon because Ricciardo comes across and like they connect. I think Ricciardo got a puncture, which is what spun him out. But obviously, it put him and Albon both into the barrier, taking them out of the race. Then Guan Yu Zhou, well, on the restart, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below or in this top corner to stay subscribed for all my latest Formula 1 and football content. I'll now let you get back to the video. Because there was a red flag, safety car red flag, blah, blah, blah. We all know the score. They had to fix the barriers, which took about 10-20 minutes. But then Guan Yu Zhou, he ended up having to DNF from the race as well, not long after the restart, because he had gearbox problems in his Sauber. Now, there wasn't really much performance in the Sauber anyway, with Bottas only finishing 14th. But on the restart, Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc made a little bit of contact, and then that hampered Hamilton all the way through the first stint. But obviously, Logan Sargent nearly ruined like Williams entirely by nearly putting his car in the barrier. I think it was Degner 2 maybe, or heading into the Degners. But ended up finishing a lap down, as did everyone up to P10 with Yuki Tsunoda. Sargent had quite a lot of pace, actually. I was actually quite impressed, but obviously that trip in the gravel and touching the wall slightly, obviously that meant he needed a pit stop, and that led to him ending up finishing 17th. Not something that he'll be impressed with, but it's just one of those, and he didn't break his car, and that's the positive. Obviously, Alex Albon, his car was a mangled mess. Gasly and Ocon, 15th and 16th. Obviously, we know the score there. They haven't really got a great car. They're really struggling. Straight line speed just seemed nowhere. Corners seemed nowhere. Then obviously 14th, as previously mentioned, Valtteri Bottas. He had a fairly decent race, but not a lot of pace in the Sauber. It's a bit disappointing, really. Magnussen P13, Lance Stroll. I don't know what's gone off with Lance Stroll this weekend. He's just been miles behind Alonso the entire weekend. Never really seemed to ever find any pace. Hulkenberg in P11. Yuki Tsunoda picks up another point in P10. And then we get on to the rest of the grid. Now, I'm a bit screwed when it comes to Mercedes, really, because I think they made a mistake. I think they made a big mistake in the first stint. Lewis Hamilton spent 3 or 4 laps complaining about the way the car was handling. The balance wasn't right. The tyres were going off. And then eventually, because of that, he ended up suggesting to let Russell through. Now, for me, if I was Mercedes, I would have boxed Lewis, put him onto the fresh hards, sorted out the actual damage that he had, because he had end plate damage, according to Bono on the radio post-race after the incident with Leclerc on the restart. Obviously, it wasn't a massive incident, but obviously a little bit of end plate damage can send the balance of the car miles off, especially when the car is so strict in its setup window anyway. We know that just a couple of degrees of temperature completely changes the way the car handles and runs at Mercedes. So losing a front wing end plate and not being able to adjust to it straight away is obviously another thing which ruins it again. So obviously Lewis Hamilton did end up finishing in P9, but in the second and third stint, I'm pretty sure he gained about 13 seconds on George Russell, who ended up finishing about a second and a half behind Fernando Alonso. Now, Russell, I believe, is under investigation and will probably be going to see the stewards due to contact with Piastri heading into the final lap. George Russell just sent one down the inside, pushed Piastri off the track. I believe they made contact front wing to front wing. Now, for me, I think Russell should receive 5 seconds. You can say what you want about that, but for me, I think it's a 5-second penalty minimum, maybe 10, because obviously they've been a bit stricter this season. It would only drop him 2 positions, but like he saw no punishment and actually gained out of forcing Piastri off track, who did finish P8 in the end. Then it was Russell P7, as mentioned, under investigation, so that could change. Fernando Alonso in P6, and then Norris 20 seconds further ahead up the road in P5. Leclerc P4, Sainz back on the podium P3 after his win in Melbourne. Another brilliant performance from him. Charles Leclerc runs away with driver of the day on the alternative strategy. Now he'll feel probably a bit hard done to not to have Ferrari sort of hold positions, but it's one of those. We'll see what happens. Sergio Perez finished 12 seconds behind Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen taking fastest lap as well. And for me, there's a lot of things you can talk about for this weekend, and there's so much going on in Formula One, and there was loads of overtaking today on track, but none that really meant a great deal. A lot of it was people overtaking the Alpines or people overtaking Haas and after pit stops and stuff like that, and then you sort of end up with, I think there was like a 40-second gap between P9 and P10, and it's like, realistically, Lance Stroll should be P10. Like, he should have been P10, but he wasn't, whatever. But, like, there's so much going on in the positions that don't matter, and there's nothing going on in the positions that matter. Yeah, obviously, you have cars chasing each other down on different strategies, like Carlos Sainz chasing down Charles Leclerc, but it's difficult. It's really difficult watching at the moment, and I'm struggling to see any real momentum in this Formula One season. I'm not sure if it's because, apart from Bahrain and Jeddah, the last 2 races have been like, for practice and stuff, it's half one get-ups, and I know for people outside of Europe that's like bog standard, but it's sort of like there just doesn't seem to be any sort of momentum with the season, because like people are missing sessions, not everyone's able to keep up to date with it for work commitments, life commitments, sort of thing. And obviously these races have to happen, but it's always difficult when they're so close together. And I'm pretty sure the next one is similar when it comes to timings and stuff. It's like, yeah, you look here, practice 1 is 4:30 to 5:30 on the 19th of April for China, and then the sprint is 4 a.m. to 5. Like it. Now, don't get me wrong, the race is at a much better time at 8 o'clock, and the sprint qualifying starts at 8:30, so that's much better. But it's just a bit hard to get into a rhythm of the races when the races are all at random times. It's like once we get back into like Europe and the races like start at like 12, 1, 2, 3, that's 10 times better. And then obviously I know there's a couple that start later on in the day, evening time. But like for me, I completely understand why they have to do what they have to do. Like it's fine, but it's just really difficult when there's so many together. Like Jeddah was an evening race. Bahrain, I think, started earlier than it usually does, or later than it usually does. These ones have been really early. Like it's just difficult to sort of find a rhythm. I don't know if you lot agree. You'll have to let me know your thoughts down in the comments. But I'm going to leave that one there. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, especially about the Russell Piastri situation. I want to know your thoughts on that. Yeah, but make sure you hit subscribe and stay tuned to the channel. We'll be back for a race preview, maybe have some Who Are We videos over the coming weeks. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, and stay tuned to the channel for upcoming videos, and I'll catch you in the next one. Make sure to go and find me on TikTok, pictured here, and Twitter, pictured here. These are the places where I'll keep you all up to date with all my upcoming videos and my thoughts and feelings around the Formula 1 and football weekend.